Hi guys, my name is Perla Estrella. I'm discussing the topic image formation and display for ultrasound. You probably already heard about the historical development from Matt, equipment used by Corinne, the piezoelectric effect um, by Abe, and the uses and limitations from Andrea. I'll be going more into image formation and display. So I'm just going to read off the slides. The ultrasound image is produced based on the reflection of waves of the body off of the body structures. And these images are obtained using ultrasound machine and are based on the piezoelectric effect. Slides 12, which are the ones that Abe has covered, which generates ultrasounds. We use ultrasound imaging to generate anatomical images, like babies, or we want to see the inside of a male stomach or something, For medical imaging, we tend to use ultrasound that's inaudible sound waves with the frequency of 2 to 18 megahertz. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, so here I have each step that goes into the formation of images in an ultrasound machine. So step 1 is where we have the sound waves are emitted from the transducer. The transducer is very important. Without this, we can't really make the images. We have your sound waves that penetrate the tissue in the form of a beam. So from the transducer, they go into the patient using sound waves in a form of a beam, right? And then as the beam travels through the tissues, it is then mirrored by the tissue structures and echoes back to the transducer, while some of the energy is absorbed by the tissues. The absorbed energy from the beam is later released as heat. The amplitude of the echoes in the ultrasound depends on the degree of energy absorption of the emitted beam. We have step 4, the echoes then return to the transducer. Step 5, the sound waves are turned into electrical signals, then amplified in the console. They are then assigned shades of gray depending on the amplitude of the echo produced by the tissue after. It interacts with the piezoelectric crystals. That's on slide 15 if you want to go back and refresh. The higher amplitudes show closer to the color white, and lower amplitudes show closer to the color black. Step 6, this is usually the step that we all get to see. The CPU then processes the electrical signals into images, and that can be seen on the monitor, and that's on slides 9 through 14. So this is an example of how a transducer interacts. Let me see if I can move this. I cannot. Okay. So a transducer just hits the tissue, then it's brought back, hits the tissue, brought back, hit the tissue, brought back. That's how it's usually formed the images. So the diagram above, it shows that the ultrasound wave beam, the blue horizontal bar, penetrates the tissue. A percentage is reflected back. That's the arrows returning to the transducer, toward the transducer, while another continues to go deep into the tissues. That's the right arrow that passes by the tissues, which is each pillar in the middle, losing some energy to the parenchyma as it goes. Sorry, I know I botched that. Okay. This is an example of how an image is formed. So you have the beam, which is that blue line right there. It's kind of like a printer, but instead of using ink and paper, it uses echoes and the ultrasound to create echoes, thus making it a beam. And it keeps doing that until it forms this image here that you see below, which is the sound waves and the tissues. Essentially, it scans across the field of view with multiple ultrasound beams, and it takes the reflection pattern and puts that together. Putting them together is what forms a cohesive image over the field of view. This is what you see here at the bottom, the last image formed. All right, so I have actually a 2-minute video better explaining. This is a 2-minute video briefly explaining exactly how images are formed, starting from the transducer you see here, which is one of the most important parts of the ultrasound machine. So I'm going to play this video. Okay, I'm just going to play this video so you can have a better explanation of what I just said. It's very short, it's only 2 minutes, actually a little less than 2 minutes.
The heart of most ultrasound systems is a device called a transducer, which uses an array of piezoelectric crystals. A piezoelectric crystal vibrates when an electric signal is applied, producing high-frequency sound pressure waves, which we call ultrasound. More importantly, this type of crystal can also work in reverse. It can produce electrical signals when it detects high-frequency sound pressure waves. When a transducer directs ultrasound waves into the body, they pass right through the skin and into the internal anatomy. As the waves encounter tissues with different characteristics and densities, they produce echoes that reflect back to the piezoelectric crystal. This happens more than 1,000 times a second. Returning echoes are converted to electric signals, which a computer converts into points of brightness on the image, corresponding to the anatomic position and the strength of the reflecting echoes. A medical transducer contains a large array of crystals, which allow it to make a series of image lines that, together, form a complete image frame, called a sonogram. In addition, all the crystals are repeatedly activated many times in such a way that a complete image frame is formed around 20 times per second, so that real-time motion is displayed in the ultrasound image.
All right, that's it for the video. Now moving on to the next slide. Okay. All right, so that's the end of my slides. Let me just go over ultrasound a little bit more briefly. So we know the piezoelectric effect uses electrical current to squeeze out crystals, and it basically spits out sound. If you pump the electrical current into the piezoelectric crystal, you get sounds, and that is sent out from the crystal, right? Then you have the sound signal that comes back into the crystal. It causes it to vibrate and actually produces an electrical current. This is called, this is why the transducer is called the transducer, because it's something that transmits but also receives. So you can ask yourself, how does the ultrasound machine actually take all these beams and echoes and turns them into a cohesive image? So essentially, let's see. Yeah, so like I said here, essentially it scans across the field of view, multiple ultrasound beams discussed in the slides 15. We can go over that again if you like. It takes the reflection pattern, puts it together. Putting them together is what forms the cohesive image that we see here in this field of view. So yeah, that's all I have on image formation. It's actually very straightforward how images are formed. They take the concept of how bats communicate and see their surroundings, but we were able to make it easier for us to use that to see inside the human body. Next, you have your safety considerations with Kristen. And yeah, thank you.